Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bethany, president of Golden Shovel, and we are going to give a couple minutes just for everyone to join us and get in from the waiting room. But I'm really excited that you're here with us today and excited for you to learn more about what EcoMaps is doing. Hopefully, all of you are surviving this cold, cold weather. I've heard a lot about negative temperatures. I have not left my house in 2 days, because I'm in Maryland and I'm a little bit of a wimp, and we got 8 inches. So that was crazy for us. But I know my Minnesota colleagues have said that it hasn't really gotten over zero every day. So I guess I have it good.
It's the most snow I've ever seen, Bethany, and I'm not kidding about that.
See, there we go.
Yeah,
Crazy everywhere. It's not just
yeah,
me.
totally.
So I guess if you are joining us from the West Coast, or maybe somewhere southern where it's a little bit warmer than us, you are some of the lucky ones. All right. Well, hey, it is 2 after, so we will get started today, just to maximize everyone's time. Again, Bethany Quinn, president of Golden Shovel. And one of the things that we really work hard on is bringing all of you in the economic development community information on industry trends and best practices, and also resources, because we know that you are usually operating on a team that is, 1 to 5 people. The most common size is 2 to 3. And so there's so much work to be done, not enough time, and automation helps all of us to make a bigger impact. And that's why I was really excited to see what EcoMaps is doing and how they're using automation and tools that they've developed to help economic developers do more without more time. And so Sherrod Davis is the CEO of EcoMaps and one of the co-founders, and he's going to present for you today how their solutions really can help you to do more with your workforce ecosystem. So welcome, Sherrod. Take it away. I'm excited to hear what you have to say today.
Thanks, Bethany. First, thanks for having us. Really excited to be here with Golden Shovel. And thanks everyone for joining us. As Bethany mentioned, I'm Sherrod Davis. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO at EcoMap. We're a technology company that exists to support local economic development. Today, we're talking about building a workforce first economy, and why automation is now core infrastructure. We're going to talk a lot about that over the next hour. But first, let me tell you a little bit about EcoMap and who we are. So we're delivering modernized technology like AI to support customers who are focused on local economic development. Everything from catalyzing small business to regional sectors to workforce development. We've had the privilege of working with close to 100 customers in over 30 states and 5 countries around the world doing this work. A little bit of history. We were founded back in 2018 based on research coming out of Johns Hopkins University, looking specifically in Baltimore at the entrepreneurial ecosystem and its impact on economic development. Through that journey, as I mentioned, we've had the opportunity to collaborate with 90 plus ecosystems around the country and around the world. And what we realized was that local economic development isn't just about the lack of access to resources in general, more broadly speaking. It's about the lack of access to modernized technology to do their work better. And so today we're pleased to support a variety of local economic development use cases, everything from sector specific growth to affordable housing and workforce development that we'll talk about today. We work with major cities across the country, like the city of Baltimore, the city of Philadelphia, also states like Oregon, Kansas, Indiana, and in universities like UNC Chapel Hill, University of Arkansas, to name a few. So we'll lean on that experience as we shape and talk more about our perspective on workforce. I think what we are seeing at a high level is that cities and towns are starting to prioritize workforce development as a core economic driver in a more targeted way, I'll say. And so EcoMap exists as a tool that centralizes information. It makes it easy to find and elevate opportunities for economic growth and quality of life improvement for residents. This is supported by the data in a study by NLC in their State of the Cities. Mayors ranked economic and workforce development as their number one priority above housing and above safety. We also know from America's Talent Strategy that 21 million prime-age Americans are not participating in the labor force today. At the same time, 39% of economic development professionals view workforce as their top priority. We also see the volume of non-degree training programs growing rapidly. And so what this means for the day-to-day reality of workforce management is that most economic developers, most people who are trying to manage these systems don't have real-time view of the training programs or the resources that exist within their localities. And part of that is because the workforce data lives in PDFs, it lives in spreadsheets. And so it's hard to see gaps ultimately by industry, by population, by geography. And as Bethany alluded to at the top, many of the folks working in this space don't have the time to update these workforce resources manually. And so ultimately, it becomes difficult to show outcomes to funders, to boards, to elected leaders. This is what we hear from our work with economic development leaders around the country. And so this is what workforce visibility looks like in practice. We had the opportunity to work with two Golden Shovel partners in Bloomington and Wyandotte to demonstrate our capabilities. And so we'll dig into this a little bit later, but there are four things I want to just call out quickly. One is a centralized view. So you have access to hundreds of workforce assets in one place, and then you have the ability to filter those assets to find what it is you're looking for. EcoMap handles the updates on our end, and then you have visibility into dashboards that can help articulate the impact of what's happening in your workforce environment. I think our perspective, somewhat ironically, as an AI company, is that now is the time to look at how we manage local economies. The impact and the proliferation of AI is going to change things. I think it's unclear how those changes will manifest. But the World Economic Forum put out a stat that 40% of employers expect workforce reductions due to automation. And McKinsey said that 14% of the global workforce will have to switch careers or learn entirely new skills by 2030. And so as we think about our roles as economic developers and the opportunity and challenge that we have to build communities that support all of our citizens, I think our role at EcoMap is to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place so that our customers and the communities that they support are well equipped to manage and stand resiliently based on what's to come. And so that AI component, the emphasis on workforce development more broadly, combined with this element of dynamism and complexity, as evidenced by the fact that skills-based hiring is now mainstream. We're seeing a much more emphasis on apprenticeship, and at the same time, there's a growing skills gap. These are some of the things, some of the trends that we're seeing that we think are motivating a lot of our customers to invest in automation as it relates to managing their workforce resources. And so the question then is like, how is an economic developer supposed to manage all of this complexity, all of this change, all of this pressure without real-time visibility? And so we introduce ecosystem mapping. What is what we do? It's what the name suggests. And so ecosystem mapping is a way to understand and manage workforce systems or any ecosystem as they actually operate. So it makes fragmented workforce assets visible in one place. It gives you the opportunity to connect training supply to employer demand. It enables coordination across multiple parties that might share a unified vision for a local economy, and it supports faster, more informed decision making as conditions change. Ultimately, what we want to deliver at EcoMap is this foundational visibility into the ecosystem. We view that as table stakes in order to ultimately provide you with insights, insights that you need to make the right decisions about the communities that you all are supporting. We define an ecosystem as any combination of organizations, resources, people, and the activities and opportunities that exist and the interconnected relationships between them. And so you can quite literally see, as you think about your own ecosystems, how unwieldy, how complex managing all of this information is. But I think it also speaks to the opportunity that suggests when we have a strong handle on it, it's easier to provide support to that person who's looking to take an economic mobility journey, or it's easier to connect dots between a workforce training provider and an employer. And so that's what EcoMap can bring to bear, all in service of creating more accessible ecosystems and economies. And so why do we EcoMap? We EcoMap to understand the existing landscape. What do you have in place? The analogy that I use is our customers are trying to bake a cake. What we do first and foremost is we tell them the ingredients that they have in their fridge, that they have in their cupboard. What do they have at their disposal in order to produce this really compelling result? We EcoMap in order to connect stakeholders with ecosystem assets. Ultimately, we're trying to address silos and solve really meaningful problems, like how do we find gainful employment for the people that we're supporting in our communities. Why does automation matter? Automation matters in part because of the things I already mentioned, because of the dynamism of this space, right? It's changing so quickly, it's ever evolving. And so if you think about something as straightforward as non-degree credentials or employer-led training programs, like those things are growing faster and changing and evolving more quickly than manual tactics typically are able to keep up with. And just grounding that point a little bit further, when we talk to customers, they're typically able to manage what a university or a community college has to offer. But as you sort of go up the chain here, and you look at apprenticeships, you look at trade schools, you look at micro credentialing, like these are things that start to turn a little bit more quickly. And so a lot of our customers have gotten a lot of value in actually leveraging our technology to keep up to date with what's going on and what's changing in their ecosystem. I think the other important thing to note is that everything that I've mentioned so far and the way in which we are typically supporting workforce ecosystems does seem to align with the national talent strategy and where that's headed. There's a focus on industry-driven talent pipelines. They talk about this concept of integration, real-time labor market, and training intelligence. I think what we are seeing is a push to help operationalize this new shift, even though at times the resources in order to operationalize that may be lagging. And so what we hope to do is come in and augment existing capacity with technology in order to fill that gap. And so if you think about EcoMap's workforce visibility infrastructure, there's just a few things I want to call out specifically. One is this concept of an automated resource library. So going out and sourcing the relevant assets and resources that exist within an ecosystem or within a geography. And layering that on top of centralized workforce assets in that same geography is how you create this density where now people know where to turn when they are thinking about career transitions or when they are thinking about upskilling. And so not only do our economic development partners have visibility into the whole of the ecosystem, but they're also facilitating in a more compelling, easier to use way an opportunity for their stakeholders to engage with that information. And so here are just some of the ways that leaders are using EcoMap. One, they're using it to identify where they should deploy investments as it relates to workforce, while at the same time identifying skills gaps and training overlaps in real time, right? We're trying to a certain degree, limit where we have duplicative efforts and also amplify where those duplicative efforts might have an opportunity to collaborate. And so that all lends itself to better coordination across multiple partners, and then ultimately equipping our customers with better data in order to compete for more budget as it relates to their workforce development initiatives or the support that they lend to their partners. So we've got two examples that I'm going to dive into very, very quickly. One is in Bloomington, Indiana. You can see here that they've got an EcoMap um, automated resource library embedded on their website. We are so thankful for them for partnering with us on this. And so all of this is managed in a centralized backend that's powered by EcoMap's AI and automation. And then we've got Wyandotte, and you can see here a map embed. And so these workforce training resources we're able to bring to bear in an interface that highlights where they are located in and around Kansas City. And happy to dive into those if those are interesting during the Q&A. And in closing, EcoMap is well equipped to support a multitude of ecosystem use cases. I know we spent a lot of time today talking about workforce development specifically, but we know that the job of an economic developer expands far beyond that. And so our role is to centralize the activities and opportunities that exist within an ecosystem to help our customers and partners do their work better. We have the great privilege of working in this space. I think of local economic development as a tide that can raise all boats. And so if we can bring a more modernized technology stack to bear, we're always thrilled to be able to do that. I know we're going to jump into Q&A, Bethany. If you're curious to learn more, that's my email address. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I do want to, obviously answer the questions that are in the Q&A. Before we do, though, I wanted to share a really relevant example from one of our clients. This is actually an article we're promoting in our newsletter this week because we were, just really excited to share what they're doing. And that's in Palestine, Texas. A perfect example of you're talking about these micro credentials and things changing really quickly. So they have a company that came into Palestine who's going to be hiring 350 people, and they're going to be doing repairs for Bitcoin mining computers and operational systems. And they have actually worked with the Trinity Valley Community College to develop, again, that kind of micro credentialing, really hit the ground running training program where they're going to be hiring people and training them at the same time. Obviously, then that's going to be something that other people can go to the community and technical college to receive that type of training. And we're seeing those things happen all over the country. And sometimes economic developers play a major role in making that happen. Other times they don't know that it's happening because obviously, again, huge job, not enough time.
Yeah.
So tell us how EcoMaps helps economic developers to, I guess, stay on top of these small things that are happening in their community that could have a big impact, but they just might not be aware of.
Yeah, no, it's a great example, Bethany, and a great question. So the way in which you should think about sort of our core functionality is we are putting parameters around an ecosystem first and foremost. So we're helping to define the ecosystem. So when we go into a geography, first thing we want to understand is like, what is your coverage? Is it a town? Is it a city? Is it a
Mhm.
state? Is it a region? What are your focus areas? Are we focused on small business? Are we focused on startups? Are we focused on workforce development? Those are two of the primary inputs that we are using on the back end to tell our technology, okay, here is our coverage area. Once we have that coverage area, essentially what we are doing is we are identifying key sources of information that exist within that ecosystem. We are identifying novel sources of information that exist within that ecosystem. And we are constantly and consistently monitoring those sources of information, looking for new and relevant assets, news, events, jobs. As I mentioned, like our role is to centralize all of that under one digital roof to give
Mhm.
our customers that visibility. And then we equip them with the tools that they need to sort of use that at their disposal. So, do they want to display that publicly in some interface? Do they want to use it to step into a conversation with a partner? There are really a number of different applications once you actually have access to the data in a meaningful way.
Okay, so I'm putting you on the spot. So I just want to check here. So, like with that story I shared, in this particular situation, our team wrote about it and published it on their website, right? So obviously the economic developer is involved, excited, and aware. But what if, like what happens many times, the company just does it, doesn't talk to the economic developer about it, and maybe they put out a press release? Would your tool find that press release and gather that data?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So some of the way in which you should think about the types of data that we have access to, organizations, resources, but also things like news articles,
Mhm.
events that are super dynamic, even jobs postings. So we're looking across multiple different types of data and ingesting that information. So if it showed up in a press release, in a news article, if you will, you should expect our technology to be able to pull that in to the data library.
Okay, awesome. So that's a really good way for economic developers to stay on top of things that are happening in their community that they might not have time to necessarily be involved in, which I know that people really appreciate. It's all about
Yeah,
how do we do more with less, and how do we have actionable intelligence.
for sure.
The other thing that I could see this being really useful with is so many of the economic developers that we work with are actively trying to engage their K-12 partners and trying to get the career counselors and teachers to talk to students about credentialing opportunities that they can do within the community rather than necessarily having to leave. It is very costly and time consuming, obviously, to run talent attraction campaigns. So it's often easier to keep the talent that you already have. I don't know if you have any case studies of schools using this tool, but I could definitely see that being a great way to leverage the information.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. In the Pacific Northwest, we work with a group that's focused on K-12 education and talent pathways. And so it's
Hmm.
actually a coalition of like the schools. There's this nonprofit that's kind of taken up the mantle, but you should think of EcoMap as the connective tissue between those multiple
Hmm.
groups. So they're trying to identify the career pathways. They're trying to, along those pathways, incorporate relevant resources based on where the student is, what the student is interested in, and ultimately what the student wants to accomplish. Again, this is just one of the examples that I think is possible. Like once you have that
Yeah.
clear line of sight into the things that are happening in your own backyard.
But that's exactly the right example because that's the conversation we're having with economic developers every day, right? As businesses need more talent, you already have people living in the community. The staff of the schools often don't know where to necessarily direct them. So
Mhm.
I could see if that's all just online in one place, it'd be very easy to even just direct students to go there
Mhm.
and to check it out. So that's awesome. Do you want to share the name of that organization so people can look it up as an example?
Yeah, they're actually launching on February 1st, so it's not live
Okay.
yet, but the name of the organization is called the Center for Black Excellence.
Awesome.
And they're based in the Pacific Northwest. So Washington, Oregon region is really their mandate and focus.
Okay, great. So I guess anyone who wants to see that in action, go look for it next week.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's make sure we answer questions too. And anyone else who has more questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. You can type it in there. Um, Someone wanted to know if there's a qualitative aspect to your platform.
Yes. 100%. I love this question. Um, We take a three-pronged approach to our data. EcoMap uses its technology to find what is publicly available. We give our customers an interface to engage with that data and information. So nothing is going public, so to speak, until our customer blesses it, approves it, sends it forth. And so we rely on our customers to actually be the ones to qualify the data to a certain degree, right? Because we don't know, we're not in Bloomington. We will never understand Bloomington and, the economic developers in Bloomington. But what we're trying to do is give them a tool that allows them to understand what is happening in Bloomington in a deeper way, and more importantly, get the right information to the right people in their region more quickly. And so our customers are that layer of qualification between EcoMap and their audience.
Great. So you just can approve or deny, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Totally.
And what about specific workforce groups like people leaving military service or veterans? That's a great question. Service members transitioning is definitely something economic developers want to engage with on a deeper level.
Yeah, it is a great question. We worked with a customer here in Maryland called Reveille Grounds that was focused on that. That was a nonprofit here. And so we get really passionate about this work. The data is flexible enough to support that use case and a wide variety of use cases. So you can actually drill down specifically into the data to say, here are the resources that we have in blank for military service or veterans, and provide that sort of bespoke, curated set of resources to that audience.
I think that speaks to the fact you were saying earlier, you can put parameters around it. So you can make it as broad, it sounds like, or as narrow as it needs to
Exactly.
be based on the organization's needs. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone asked if there is an ongoing interactive aspect to the platform. It's great to know about resources, but is there a mechanism to connect? Great question.
Great question. And the answer is not yet. So within each individual resource listing, so to speak, we are finding publicly available contact information for that resource. And so the end user can very simply click that contact button. It will open up their email, and they can connect with that group via the platform. And so our focus is really on illuminating the opportunities. I do see an opportunity in the future to um, perhaps be more heavy-handed in facilitating some of those connections.
Okay, but it is possible to click on it and make the call or click on it and make the
Totally.
email. So it's not like
100%.
somebody is seeing the name and then having to Google it. They can take
Exactly.
action immediately.
That's right,
Okay,
Bethany.
got it. So you guys are considering ways to facilitate the conversations more, but right now it is still possible to kind of be automated for the user.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. I really appreciate you sharing all these. Is there any other examples that you want to talk about today? You shared a lot, and obviously I know there's a lot of case studies on your website too, if you want to direct people there instead.
Yeah. Uh, we work across multiple types of economic developer. If you think about sort of the set of economic development groups, from chambers of commerce to city and local government to state government, et cetera. So we've seen a lot in this space. I think some of the ones that I get most excited about, I've mentioned, supporting the K-12 space. supporting military and veterans. Some of the other work that we do is sector specific. So we support the bioscience industry in Virginia and in New Mexico, for example. And so really excited to deploy our technology as it relates to like, we are hyper focused on this industry. Let's centralize the information that we have to create this digital hub where someone can come and find out how they might engage in this industry further.
That makes sense. And I think that's also valuable from the workforce attraction perspective as well. You want to go where there's synergy and momentum. And there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of people hiring and training in your profession. And then, of course, business attraction. You want to see the same thing because you want to know there's an ecosystem to back up the growth of your community. So those are great examples. Let me just see if there's any other Q&A.
Looks like there is.
There is. Awesome. Okay. So it says, does your platform include organizations like youth groups or churches, or can it if you haven't done that before?
Yeah, we have done it. And so this is a part of the parameter setting, right? So we go through a process where we're like um, starting to understand the types of assets that might exist in your locality, and then mapping that on your behalf. So if youth groups are going to be relevant to the audience, we'll go get those. If churches will be, if libraries are a big one for us that we're seeing a lot more of. So yeah, lots of flexibility and optionality with it.
Awesome. So it sounds like you can really customize it just based on what
Exactly.
is important to a community. And I know churches are definitely stepping up all over the country and providing
Yes.
way more resources than they used to. We're seeing that a lot in childcare, for example.
Yeah.
All right. Another attendee asked, our ED department currently has a workforce development program. I could see this being used for a wide variety of mapping from K-12, military, training providers, sector, specific resources, etc. How many of your companies or organizations that you're working with are using this more holistically?
Yeah. I would say most of them are. Um, Certainly when we work at the state level, there's actually going to be multiple applications that they are deploying on various uh, elements of their website, for example, or various elements of whatever platform they're using. And it makes it easier for them because now they have a single interface by which they're managing, their training providers, their sector specific resources, and they don't have to go to multiple places in order to like actually manage that data. So it gives them a more holistic view of the entire set of ecosystem assets.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that again, this is workforce specific, but you do have plenty of examples and case studies on your website of how that is used. So going to EcoMaps and checking that out is something that I definitely recommend. Well, I do want to thank you again for presenting here today. We really appreciate your time and we appreciate everyone attending. Sherrod did share his contact information. So if you have additional questions, I encourage you to reach out. And this, of course, will be recorded and put on the goldenshovelagency.com website. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Bethany.